So France, UK, and Germany were the three ones who came together and they decided to work on this technology and master it.
Mhm.
So they decided to create this organization which is now known as Airbus. टायटेनियम रशियाकडनं मिळतं आणि टायटेनियम
Mhm.
एरोस्पेस मध्ये ह्युजली पॉप्युलर खूप यूज केलं जातं.
Okay.
युक्रेन गॉट अंडर वॉर विथ रशिया.
Mhm. Mhm.
एरोस्पेस सप्लाय चेन ला हा प्रॉब्लेम आला की आता कसं करायचं आहे.
बरोबर आहे.
ते सॉल्व्ह करता येतो इश्यू अजून पण. लेट्स से वी आर ऑल्सो very optimistic about hydrogen fuel as a source
Mhm.
instead of
Mhm.
uh, the fuel that we are using right now to
Mhm.
reduce the carbon impact almost nothing at all. There are plans, of having a plane by 2035 using the hydrogen fuel, but to even reach that level we'll have to start with something which is more easier right now, low cost carriers like Indigo in India or Ryanair in Europe, where they
Mhm.
just offer a seat for 20 euros, where you can go from one country to another for 20 euros. It's very cheap.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, and they're also coming up there where their CEO talk that will make an option where you can stand on an airplane and you just pay 10 or 5 euros. So
Is,
imagine that
is it
happening.
is
Huh?
it really true?
I don't know how, but he really said it, and then you can expect things like that from Ryanair. So DRDO ने जे technology develop केले, even before Make in India was a thing,
Mhm.
DRDO was developing technologies, was becoming self-reliant in its
Mhm.
own ways, whether you talk about uh, developing missiles or systems which are.
या नमस्कार मंडळी, वेलकम टू चॅटबी पॉडकास्ट. आणि आज आपण एरोनॉटिक इंडस्ट्रीवरती बोलणार आहोत, एरोस्पेस इंडस्ट्रीवरती बोलणार आहोत. अँड ऑफकोर्स आपण त्याच्याबद्दलचे खूप सारे आतल्या गोष्टी जाणून घेणार आहोत, त्याच्यामधले बिझनेस अपॉर्च्युनिटीज जाणून घेणार आहोत, आणि ऑफकोर्स त्याच्यामधले जॉब आणि करिअर अपॉर्च्युनिटीज पण जाणून घेणार आहोत. सो दिस एपिसोड विल बी हेल्पफुल फॉर स्टुडंट्स. हा एपिसोड खूप हेल्पफुल होऊ शकतो प्रोफेशनल्सला जे या इंडस्ट्रीमध्ये ग्रो करण्याचा प्रयत्न करत आहेत. भरपूर साऱ्या अपॉर्च्युनिटीज आहेत इंडियामध्ये, वर्ल्डमध्ये या इंडस्ट्रीच्या रिलेटेड. सो आज आपल्यासोबत आलेले आहेत रोहित. ह्या इंडस्ट्रीमध्ये ते आहेत, अँड ऑफकोर्स आपण त्यांच्याकडनं ह्या इंडस्ट्रीबद्दल खूप सारी माहिती गोळा करणार आहोत, खूप सारी माहिती जाणून घेणार आहोत. सो खूप इंटरेस्टिंग असणार हा पॉडकास्ट. अँड ऑफकोर्स समजा तुम्ही सबस्क्राईब नसेल केलं तर नक्की 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 सबस्क्राईब करा. अँड ऑफकोर्स व्हिडिओ एंड पर्यंत बघा आणि लाईक करायला नका विसरू. सो चला सुरू करूया.
So, Rohit, welcome to the ChatBeat podcast. How are you feeling?
First of all, thank you so much, Pradyumna. I'm happy to be here, and I'm feeling very well. Uh,
Mhm. So let's start with the beginning. तुझी
yeah,
जर्नी कशी स्टार्ट झाली? तुला इंटरेस्ट कधी आला एरोनॉटिक इंडस्ट्रीमध्ये?
माझी पहिली मेमरी अशी की आय थिंक मी न्यूजपेपरमध्ये वाचलं काहीतरी एरोस्पेस बद्दल. आय थिंक इट मस्ट हॅव बीन समथिंग रिलेटेड टू अ रॉकेट लॉन्च और समथिंग, अँड आय जस्ट लव्ड एव्हरीथिंग दॅट फ्लाईज, एअरप्लेन्स, रॉकेट्स, सो या ह्या गोष्टींचा इंटरेस्ट येत गेला आणि दॅट्स हाऊ आय वॉज शुअर की मला एरोस्पेसमध्ये जायचंय. अँड across my growing days, whether it's rocket launches, successful rocket launches, or the astronauts uh, revolving around the ISS, all those images हे खूप इंट्रिग्विंग होतं आणि दॅट वॉज माय फर्स्ट मोटिवेशन बेसिकली. आणि सर्व लहान मुलांसारखं मलाही वाटलं की अंतराळवीर व्हायचंय. काइंड ऑफ use my passion as an obsession and did my aerospace engineering.
Wow, wow.
The first one I would say is Kalpana Chawla. Uh, and then, of course, as I was growing up, there were multiple successful missions which Sunita Williams ने केले त्या period मध्ये. So there used to be, this huge news around it, and तिचं background Indian आहे आणि there used to be huge articles on it. So yeah, I think Sunita Williams आणि त्याच्यानंतर I think Abdul Kalam, without a doubt. That's a huge inspiration for all the Indians who are in this field. So yeah, I think those three people, I can say. And one more thing, there's एक मूवी आहे होमर हिकमची, जे
हम्म.
नासाचे रॉकेट सायंटिस्ट आहे.
ओके.
त्या मूवीचं नाव आहे रॉकेट बॉईज.
हां हां.
I would recommend it to all your viewers. It's a very good movie. It's about the uh, a boy who gets interested in this field, and he builds a rocket in his backyard. Uh, he has no background, and then he goes on to become a rocket scientist in NASA. So it's a biography, one of the very good movies.
वाव,
Yeah,
दॅट्स ग्रेट. ह्या इंडस्ट्रीबद्दल बोलूयात आपण थोडं.
yeah.
हे इंडस्ट्री इव्हॉल्व कसं झालं ओव्हर अ पिरियड ऑफ टाईम, अँड व्हॉट आर द बिगेस्ट चॅलेंजेस इन दिस इंडस्ट्री?
Yeah. So when we talk about how the industry has evolved over the time, we can talk in terms of two spectrums. First is your engineering or technological spectrum, and then the business spectrum.
ओके.
uh, दोघी साइड बाय साइड जातात, असं आपण डिफरन्शिएट नाही करू शकत एकदम. बट या, when we talk about, let's say, aeronautics, how it has evolved, uh, the first, the start is basically considered worldwide is the uh, first flight in 1903, Wright brothers, of course.
ओके. ओके.
And yeah, after that, a slow technological evolution, and then the age of jet engines, or the jet evolution, which we call around 1950च्या जवळपास. आणि त्याच्यानंतर मग कमर्शियलायझेशन अराउंड 1960 ते 70च्या अराउंड. आणि एक एकदम इम्पॉर्टंट फॅक्ट आहे जी भरपूर लोकांना नाही माहिती आहे, ज्यावेळेस कमर्शियलायझेशन होत होतं किंवा कंपन्यांना वाटत होतं की आता लोकांनी विमानात वगैरे फिरायला हवं, की इट्स ओपन फॉर नॉर्मल पब्लिक. पण लोक त्यावेळेस रेडी नव्हते, आणि
ओके.
त्यावेळेस कंपन्यांनी काय केलं की लोकांना पैसे देऊन, जे फर्स्ट मुव्हर्स होते त्यांना पैसे देऊन लोक विमानात बसत होते आणि
ओके.
टूर वगैरे करत होते ना, एका
ओके.
प्रकारे. सो दॅट गॉट अराउंड, द न्यूज स्प्रेड अराउंड की की flights are safe.
ओके. ओके.
Yeah, because you can imagine the people around that time who were not like uh, काहीतरी पक्षीसारखं उडतं एक मोठं टेक्नॉलॉजिकल यंत्र, आणि त्याच्यात
बरोबर.
बसणं, आणि इट्स लाईक दिस नाव. वेन वी थिंक अबाउट रॉकेट्स फ्लाइंग, इट्स ऑल्सो normal public might not feel safe. Even there are some people now, even after so much technological evolution, they don't feel safe flying in planes.
बरोबर.
So it was like that. But apart from that, and then around 2000, there was more of a technological evolution in terms of data and new technology in the aeronautics, such as fly by wire, or operating routes by using more data and analytics, and all those things. And now we are seeing a technological evolution, because uh, the engine technology जी आता आपल्याकडे आहे ती काइंड ऑफ मॅच्युरिटीच्या दिशेने आहे. म्हणजे त्यात
ओके.
आपण भरपूर गोष्टी आता मोस्ट प्रोबॅबली नाही ट्राय करू शकत.
ओके, म्हणजे स्टॅग्नंट झालंय असं म्हणणार ना?
Kind of, but I mean, there are some evolution that will be happening, but
ओके.
like it's considered that it's moving towards maturity. So what we are trying to move towards now is kind of a new way of reducing carbon emissions. So we are using we are starting to use sustainable aviation fuels. It's another type of fuel where there's very less carbon impact. And then uh, along after that, there's also technologies which are coming up, like electrical systems, where the planes will be flying by using electrical batteries and electrical charging. And then after that, let's say, we are also very optimistic about hydrogen fuel as a source instead of uh, the fuel that we are using right now, to reduce the carbon impact almost nothing at all. So yeah, these are the technological evolution that have happened. And in terms of business, as I already said, when I told you the story about the how the commercialization started. So in terms of businesses, um, yeah. So when the commercialization happened, it was, so before that, uh, mostly the technologies were used in terms of military spectrum or the defense spectrum, where they were the
Okay.
first uh,
Mhm.
ones to use it. So uh, World War I and World War II was the major powering
Mhm.
sources for this industry to evolve.
Mhm.
uh, so that's how more governments put more money in this
Mhm.
industry to make this technology more better and
Mhm.
superior. आणि त्याच्यानंतर मग around when there was a time for commercialization, we uh, thought of businesses such as airlines, where
Mhm.
uh, it happens to be like buses operating across routes, which are
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
major uh, transportation points, such as, let's say, Delhi or New York. So
Mhm.
so those kinds of points were selected where more number of people want to travel.
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
and yeah, so and after that, in terms of and then as we move towards 2000, after the initial commercialization,
Mhm.
there were more number of, as the technology happened to be, they were choosing the transportation routes in terms of different point to point.
Mhm.
So they did the commercialization in terms of short haul and long haul. So
Okay.
the technology in terms of planes were also differentiated on those 2 points. So there's this one organization, Boeing, which is based out of US. They were
Mhm.
more focused on the the long haul flights.
Okay.
um,
Okay.
there was another industry which was there was another organization which was coming out of Europe, which is Airbus. They were
Mhm.
pioneering in the short haul flights. So
Okay. Okay.
the planes were kind of wide body, and the another for short haul were kind of uh, short body.
सो वी ऑल नो की जर्मनीने पहिले यूज केलं जेट
Hmm.
इंजिन आय
Yeah,
गेस
yeah,
इफ आय एम नॉट रॉंग
yeah.
अँड देन एव्हरी वन इनकॉर्पोरेटेड इट
Yes,
सो
exactly.
म्हणजे ऑफकोर्स लोकांनी एक इव्हल साईड बघितली होती जेट इंजिनची
Yeah.
की वर्ल्ड वॉरमध्ये यूज केलेलं आहे मेनी पीपल सो जसं तू बोललास की लोकांना पैसे देऊन बसवलं होतं
Hmm.
अँड आय गेस सो ॲज यू सेड की बोईंगनी सुरू केलं हे की विच वॉज द कंपनी विच स्टार्टेड
So basically, the commercial planes were made by two. There were two competitors initially, Boeing and Douglas.
ओके
So Boeing series was B707 and Douglas was D uh, 37 something. I don't
ओके
really remember the clear name of it. So those were the two companies which we call it the pioneering ones, who made the planes for people to fly in, the
ओके
general public.
ओके
And now both of them are have merged together.
मच टुगेदर
So
येस येस येस
McDonnell Douglas and Boeing are now one.
या
So yeah, so those were the ones, and then those were the US ones, and then around the time of 1970s, Europeans thought, we have to also uh, have this technology which is going to change the uh, course of history along the way. So France, UK, and Germany were the three ones who came together, and they decided to work on this technology and master it. So they decided to create this organization, which is now known as Airbus.
ओके ओके
Yeah.
सो बेसिकली आत्ता बोईंग एअरबस अँड व्हॉट आर द अदर फ्लाईट विच
Yeah,
मेक
so the major ones now are, of course, Airbus from US,
फ्लाईट
Boeing from Boeing from US,
फ्रॉम
and
US
Airbus from Europe.
युरोप
So Europe, in the sense, now it's just Germany and France, which are the operators. UK has been
ओके
kind of
ओके
away now. And apart from that, there's Embraer. Embraer is also operating in the, let's say, short haul. They make a lot of commercial planes in terms of private jets, and and from the China, there's also one player which is emerging up, which is Comic. Comic is kind of one player who is trying to make planes now. and we people are very optimistic about that. That there's one more player which is rising up, and China, how
Hmm.
when they decide to get on something, it's always competitive for other two players.
Everyone.
But the most
Everyone.
dominant nowadays are Boeing and Airbus. So,
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
but yeah, we do need another player in this industry, because it
Mm-hmm.
from many years now it has been always Airbus versus Boeing.
Mm-hmm.
They dominate this industry, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
ओके. ओके. ऑफकोर्स बोईंगवरती तर यूज आपण, कारण की त्याचे रिसेंटली खूप सारे
yeah,
किस्से झालेले आहेत, अँड वी हॅव हर्ड बोईंग इन लॉट ऑफ न्यूज,
mm,
अँड इन अ बॅड साईड ऑफकोर्स.
yeah,
तू पहिले आपण एमिशनवरती येऊ. यू टच डाऊन एमिशन,
mm,
हायड्रोजन यू सेड ॲज अ फ्युअल,
mm,
and there were many conservative fuels also.
yeah,
Uh, of course, emission is very high in airspace and
yeah,
aeroplanes. म्हणजे I won't take names, but there are various celebrities who take private jets from far
yeah,
and near. So there are various things for this carbon emission.
yeah,
So purpose companies at zero VI, I guess so,
yeah.
and
Zero
universal
AVA.
hydrogen. Yep, and universal hydrogen आहे.
Mm,
ज्यांनी हायड्रोजन पॉवर्ड प्रोपेलेशन सुरू केलंय.
yeah.
सो हाऊ कॅन यू एक्सप्लेन दॅट? काय म्हणते?
Yeah. So when we say emissions from aviation industry, or the overall ecosystem in general,
Mhm,
we forget to look at the numbers. Aviation is always the industry wherein some people can put fingers on. But
mhm,
when we look at the numbers, it's actually even less than 5% of the all the other transportation uh, industries that we have. So
mhm,
when we look in terms of number, aviation is doing a lot of efforts nowadays to go towards zero emission,
mhm.
but it also takes a heat. So it's the first one to take up the heat from the people about when they talk about pollution, or
Mhm,
carbon emission, or climate change.
mhm.
uh, but yeah, we as an aerospace engineer don't look it from a negative way. uh, we look it from an opportunity that we should be the first movers to
Mhm.
uh, take the heat and do something positive, because we have been the ones to uh, develop the technology which has impacted a lot of people.
Yep.
And if we can make some technological changes, and as the UN and even the world has decided to go net zero by 2050, so
Mhm,
even the aerospace industry has the goal, and the players are kind of moving towards that direction.
mhm,
So as I explained earlier, that there are technologies which companies are moving towards,
mhm.
and it doesn't have to be just one or two major technologies. It has to be a whole ecosystem of aerospace that uh, has to pile up together, join together their hands. And because when we talk about the aviation or aerospace industry, it's not just the manufacturers, it's the suppliers even. uh, so suppliers, as in terms of the company I'm working for right now, is Safran is the major global supplier of Airbus and Boeing.
Okay. Okay.
uh, yeah, and then there are certain challenges in terms of uh, how the technology will be ramped up. Even if we get the technology, but the challenge is also, what about the infrastructure we have for current technologies,
Mhm,
how
mhm.
the replacement is going to be, because
बरोबर.
that's also a big challenge. And
हं.
uh, the numbers are huge. Like, the orders right now that Airbus has right now are around 8,000 aircrafts that they have got the orders of to create,
ओके,
and
ओके.
Boeing, it's around 6,000 airplanes.
हं,
That's in
ओह!
their book, like the book log that they call.
हं, हं, हं.
So so even if we say there's like a lot of backlog or
हं,
that is
हं.
there, but
हं,
even if we, let's say, tell that there will be a significant technological evolution over the
हं,
years,
हं. हं.
but we also have to look at the
बॅकलॉग
aircraft
असतो.
that they need to manufacture over the
Mm.
coming years. Some
Yes.
aircrafts are planned for 2035.
Mhm.
So if you look at the order that has given by Indigo or Air India, which was like massive, it created a massive news across the world,
Mhm.
like 500 aircrafts order
बापरे.
given by Indigo in a day, or Air India in a day. But
Mhm.
those aircraft are not like they'll be given in the next 1 or 2 years. It's
Mhm.
like they'll be given in a series of until 2035. It's like a big contracts.
ओके, ओके. सो हायड्रोजनचं आता एरोस्पेस आणते. इट्स अ गो. अँड इफ यू हॅव हर्ड की आपले जे कार्स आहेत, ऑटोमोबिल्स
Yeah,
बेसिकली,
yeah,
त्याच्यामध्ये पण हायड्रोजन ॲज अ
yeah,
फ्युअल इट्स कमिंग.
yeah, yeah.
रिसर्च पण गोइंग ऑन आहे. काही काही
Mm,
लोकांनी कार पण बनवल्या आहेत.
yeah.
ऑफकोर्स ते फक्त टेस्टिंग वगैरे सुरू आहे. सो हाऊ हायड्रोजन ॲज अ फ्युअल कॅन चेंज द कन्सेप्ट ऑफ फ्युअल इन दिस मॉडर्न वर्ल्ड?
So, when we look at hydrogen, when we talk about the normal transportation, like on ground,
Mhm.
uh, it is kind of, a very tricky question because storing hydrogen takes a lot of efforts in terms of
Mhm.
technology and in terms of space.
Mhm.
So on ground, it could be manageable, but when
Okay.
you compare it to the flying thing, or let's say airplane,
Mhm.
uh, so you have always the challenge of you need to have less weight when you fly. I mean, it's
Okay.
a very
Hmm.
nominal thing, right?
Obvious thing. Huh.
And if it takes a huge weight, and if also it takes a huge let's say space to carry it, which
Mhm.
is the current challenge everyone is trying to solve,
Mhm.
uh, that's the major problem, which
Mhm.
take a lot of time to figure out that.
Mhm.
And that's where the main challenge comes up. How we gonna store it in terms of what technology is it going to be, and then how much space is it going to take up, and how are we gonna reduce it, how over the
Mhm.
time the technology will evolve, so the in terms of if we carry a less hydrogen, and it will fly more. And that has been also case with the fuel that we are using now. We've kind of evolved the engines from over the years. We've
Mhm.
made the engines better, 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 uh, to carry less fuel and have maximum efficiency as much as we can,
Mhm.
because it's also favorable not for just the on the technology spectrum, but also on the business spectrum, because when you use less fuel, you pay less money.
Mhm.
And that's kind of beneficial for the airlines, because airline business is also very tricky. It's
Hmm.
kind of said as money losing business.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
most of the airlines are not making profit.
Hmm.
Need to have the solutions where they use less money, and
Mhm.
they make more money to be in the business to survive. So those
Hmm.
are the kind of challenges when we'll talk about using hydrogen on ground, but using hydrogen for airplanes.
ओके. आपण इंडियाच्या पर्स्पेक्टिव्हने पण बोलूयात. लेट्स से म्हणजे आता इंडियामध्ये पण भरपूर सारे असे इनिशिएटिव्ह येत आहेत. सो
Mhm.
व्हॉट्स युअर से अबाउट इट?
Yeah, so I think India is kind of on the forefront right now, because let's talk about the economics of India right now.
Mhm.
Uh, we are having a very dominant position in terms of the market demand,
Mhm.
uh, because of our economic upliftment that has happened over last few years, and also the policies that we are having right now. More number of people are able to afford flight tickets, and the pace is increasing very dominantly uh, over the years, and there's like a huge demand for airplanes. And
Mhm.
that's why you see Indigo making huge profit over the years,
Mhm.
and giving massive orders to the manufacturers to meet the upcoming demands, because they know that there will be more number of people who flying,
बरोबर आहे.
and there are existing bunch of people who are flying again and again.
अगेन अँड
And
अगेन.
this it's also kind of inspiring for other people to use flights.
येस.
uh,
आणि ऑफकोर्स त्याच्यामध्ये टायर 2 आणि टायर 3 सिटीजमध्ये पण एअरपोर्ट्स बनतायत.
exactly, I was just
सो
coming to that point,
या,
because
या.
the new airport points are opening up, the new routes are opening up,
हं.
and so right now it was just the major cities that were operating in this spectrum, but now we see cities like Nasik, or the Surat city, where there are businesses, there are people who require traveling very frequently,
Mm-hmm.
and so all these airlines which have kind of captivated that market, and it's a huge market that they are trying to tap in.
Mm-hmm.
अ, त्याच्यामुळे जी मार्केटची डिमांड आहे ती खूप हाय आहे.
Mm-hmm.
त्याच्यामुळे इंडियाचा जो स्टँड पॉइंट आहे, ऑल द बिझनेसेस इन एरोस्पेस वर्ल्ड, दे वॉन्ट टू कम टू इंडिया, दे वॉन्ट टू take a chance in this market to make money. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone wants to make money.
Yep.
Uh, that goes without saying, right?
Yep.
Uh, and if there are such huge demands, even
Mm-hmm.
the companies which are operating inside, if they want to come to India,
Mm-hmm.
the Indian companies are at this dominant position right now. If
Mm-hmm.
let's say we don't have any technology,
Mm-hmm.
and other companies want to come and get the market, the
Mm-hmm.
companies which we have can maybe make a joint venture, and I mean things like that are happening. So
Mm-hmm. Yep.
uh, as the market grows, and as it demands more uh, technology or airplanes that needs to be flying across
Mm-hmm.
India, we'll see more number of jobs opening up. We'll see huge number of technological demonstrations, or let's say growing number of companies or startups also. And
Mm-hmm.
if you let's talk about space and defense system also, we
Mm-hmm.
have seen that ISRO is doing brilliantly uh, in India, and they have made a policy where now you can open up a company. Like, there has been a privatization that has happened now in terms of
In ISRO.
space, yeah, space
Mm-hmm.
ecosystem. So,
Okay. Okay.
and we have now few companies which are building rockets,
Mm-hmm.
uh, where they'll be operating more satellites.
Mm-hmm.
um, and
You want to
yeah,
name few? मतलब
yeah,
आहे का
there's
तुझ्याकडे?
one Skyroot Aerospace or Agnikul Cosmos. So those
Mm-hmm.
are the two pioneering companies, private companies,
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
which are building rockets, and they are doing some incredible work right now.
So basically,
uh,
they collab with ISRO.
Kind of, because they
Mm-hmm.
are under the wing of ISRO, where
Okay.
ISRO
Okay.
has
Okay.
opened up this policy, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll see a lot of kind of SpaceX companies in India. So those are the let's say uh, next SpaceX, but let them have their own way. Let's create
Okay.
our own companies which make India great in terms of these private operations. So due to these private operations, we'll see a huge number of external companies also, which will help our Indian companies. So with this, there's also a great sense of pride that comes up among people, and then the economical, or the technical, the technological transfer that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it also involves a lot of geopolitics. So the relations that gets built up, or the stabilities that come up with this. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so in terms of aerospace, we are at a very good dominant position right now, and there's a long way to go ahead.
Right. Yep. Actually, I was coming on that point also कि मतलब इंडिया का क्या स्टैंड है मतलब इंडियाचा कुठला स्टँड आहे एरोस्पेस पण यू हॅव एक्सप्लेन इट ब्युटिफुली
Yeah,
ऑफकोर्स इस्रोचा तो विषय काढलास तर आपण इस्रोवरती पण बोलू शकतो इस्रोचा इतक्यातच एक नवीन कॉन्ट्रॅक्ट आला ऑस्ट्रेलियासोबत सो बेसिकली
yeah,
वी आर even if Australia is well, people don't know this basically. Even if Australia is a developed
yeah,
country, its aerospace industry is way behind than
yeah,
India.
yeah,
And I guess so. ऑस्ट्रेलियाचा एक नवीन सॅटेलाइट सगळ्यात मोठा त्यांचा सॅटेलाइट
yeah.
इस्रो फ्लाय करणार आहे अँड इट्स $1 million डील आय गेस
Yes, yes, yes,
समथिंग
for
लाईक दॅट
sure. Yeah,
yep so that's a really proud moment so
yeah. I mean, you see, it's when we win World Cup, it's also the same feeling among people, right? Uh, and we flew Chandrayaan 3, and it got successful. It created a massive
mhm,
news across the global media, and it also gave a sense of pride towards our engineering capabilities
mhm,
that we have, and the talent we have, where we can achieve all of these great things where other countries were doing, and they were taking the great pride in it, and it gives a sense of sense of belonging, and a sense of pride to the people of our nation. And it's one of the greatest happiness that it can give. We don't get moments like this very often.
यप, यप.
Yeah.
चंद्रयान 3चा विचार म्हणजे तो विषय काढलाच आहे. आपण त्याच्यावरती बोलू. हाऊ वॉज चंद्रयान 3 अ पाथ ब्रेकर फॉर इस्रो? अँड ऑफ कोर्स हाऊ हाऊ इज इट अ स्टेपिंग स्टोन टुवर्ड्स मोर सक्सेस फॉर इस्रो? तुला काय
Yeah.
वाटतं?
So when we talk about Chandrayaan, let's go to 2008, where they kind of started the Chandrayaan, and it was not just the Chandrayaan 3. It was, I would say, it was Chandrayaan 1 also, which was a very successful mission, and which created a global headlines,
Mhm,
where they found out that there's a presence of water molecules on the surface of uh, moon.
mhm,
And we were the first one to do that, and that created a great confidence among the space community or the research that were happening.
mhm,
So that was a major boost for our technological advancement, Chandrayaan 1. And of course, Chandrayaan 2 was also a very major uh, success, even though it partially failed.
mhm,
Uh, but it was just about time where we were sure of our technology. There were some things that didn't go right, and they made the corrections, and Chandrayaan 3 made uh, a great success by everything went just as perfect as it could have gone. And now the research that will go in through the rover and the lander that is there, uh, it's going to study the surface. It's going to give us a lot of incredible amount of data that no one has ever had it on the southern part of the moon, the southern
mhm,
pole,
mhm,
which was the most difficult to get in. uh, so it reflects that, as I already said, that we have the we have got the engineering capabilities, and it wasn't just India. It was also with the help of a lot of smaller suppliers who give a lot of components to this mission. So it's, even if we say it's an Indian mission, it's also a kind of global mission. So we are the
okay,
representative of the global community when we talk about these things, because all these companies which are international companies, and they provide smaller parts or smaller units in terms of let's say any electron or electrical device.
mhm,
So it's a great way for them to know that there is India who is also pathbreaker for us. And when, as I already said, it's also helps us in setting up an image on the international platform. So when a prime minister goes away, or any of our representative goes away to speak at any convention,
mhm,
people know that this nation is doing incredibly well in terms of their technologies. And space technology is always at the forefront when a nation makes a great progress. You've
mhm,
seen it in US, Russia,
yep,
China also. Nowadays they are having a good missions. And Chandrayaan 3, as you said, because it was a great success, it was also a confidence boosting for us, because we have a next big mission which is coming up as Gaganyaan.
hmm,
And it's going to be a human that will be
mission,
sent
mhm,
for a space mission. And for
mhm,
that we need to have missions that are as successful as Chandrayaan 3,
mhm,
because sending a human in space is also a big thing. And when we have the backup of technologies like this,
mhm.
uh, not just the nation but the scientists feel a great confidence with these things.
Okay. And of course, it's a question of bit off topic.
Yeah,
I don't have the figures. Like the NASA uh, flies a rocket in, I don't know, many millions of dollars,
yeah,
but त्याच्या अर्ध्यापेक्षा पण कमी
yeah. It's like one
कॉस्टमध्ये
third.
1/3
Yeah.
त्याच्यामध्ये इस्रो रॉकेट्स फ्लाय करते.
I mean, there are two perspectives on this.
Mhm.
Uh, they say that it's also a negative point where you get less
Okay.
money. That's why you have to figure out things,
Mhm.
because you have less economical
Hmm.
balance on your sheets.
Mhm.
uh, and on other side we also have that, if we get more money we could do more things. So but right now we are having where we are in the time where we are having more and more funds that government is putting up in the space,
Mhm.
or the technology advancement in these missions.
Mhm.
um, so rather than looking it from a negative point, we should take a great pride in this.
Cool. ऑफकोर्स आपण चंद्रयान 3 बद्दल बोललो, आपण चंद्रयान 1, 2, 3 तिन्ही बद्दल बोललोस.
Yeah.
अँड चंद्रयान 3च्या नंतर जस्ट एक महिन्यानंतर एक आदित्य
Yeah.
L1 सोलार मिशन झालं होतं. सो
Mhm.
बेसिकली इट्स नॉट अ प्रिटी टॉक्ड अबाउट टॉपिक.
Mhm.
तर तुला त्याच्याबद्दल काय बोलायचं आहे, अँड हाऊ इज इट सिग्निफिकंट नॉट ओनली फॉर इंडिया बट फॉर द होल वर्ल्ड?
सो आपण पहिले आहोत जे सोलरच्या रिलेटेड एक मिशन करतोय. सो पहिले असण्याचा हेतू असा आहे की solar is at the forefront of our universe that we call right now, or the planetary systems, let's say. तर आणि सूर्याचा अभ्यास करणं ही काही सोपी गोष्ट नाही. यू नो हाऊ मच टेम्परेचर इट holds around itself, and uh, the space weather that sun has around it. So it's a very difficult thing to study and to know that. So whenever people have tried to study or the missions that have been there in the past, there's always distractions of eclipses happening in those missions. So there has been never a mission which studied it significantly throughout the period without any distraction happening, like
ओके.
to get a constant data of the space weather
Mhm.
around sun. It's not has been possible, and we decided to have a mission, and it got quite successful, where we put this uh, let's say the mission was quite successful in a way that where we put the technology we have at L1 point. So L1 is a point uh, where they put this technology, and there were 7 probes which were studying. So each probe has its own specialty, like what is it going to study. But in general, to give an overview, so sun has a corona around it. It's kind of the space environment that it has
Mhm.
around it, and it consists of a lot of plasma ions,
Okay.
and it has less density. So uh, the temperature difference it holds is quite significant. So to study
Mhm.
all of it and the kind of data that will be gathering about the focal point of the planetary system, and the mission is quite successful, and so it's all about the data that we'll have now,
Mhm.
which no other country was able to get it so far. So that's also a very great and successful thing, and I think it should be right up there where we are putting Mangalyaan and Chandrayaan.
वाव, वाव, ग्रेट. ऑफकोर्स आपण ह्याच्यावरती बोलू आता. तू गगनयानबद्दल बोललास, राईट?
Hmm.
एक नासाचा एक पॉइंट आलाय. सो बेसिकली त्यांनी भरपूर सारे व्हॉयजर्स, लाईक व्हॉयजर 1, व्हॉयजर 2 त्यांनी टाकली
Yeah.
त्या पिरियड ऑफ टाइममध्ये. बेसिकली वी कॅन से दॅट द गोल्डन पिरियड ऑफ नासा, की
Hmm.
त्या त्या टाइमला त्यांनी अपोलो मिशन्स केले, त्यांनी
Yeah.
व्हॉयजर्स केले, एव्हरी सिंगल थिंग दे
Hmm.
एक्सप्लोर्ड. आता का नाही करत आहेत ते? म्हणजे बेसिकली व्हॉयेजर थिंग म्हणजे लेट्स से की मार्सच्या पलीकडे जायचं आहे.
Hmm.
सो व्हाय आरंट दे गोइंग? दे हॅव द टेक्नॉलॉजी, राइट?
Yeah, I think they have the technology, but I think there's a lot of economical instability, and the governments that are changing up. So the
Mhm,
policies are not putting up in a place where they want to do, and also they've opened a world to the private players to do that, and they're doing it in a manner where they're taking up less money to have this mission. So they're just giving up the money for the research that they wanted to do, and then these private players are happy with taking up those missions and assignments, and
mhm,
having successful launches. And the technology that these private players are able to have right now is kind of better than what NASA has right now. Like
Okay.
when you
Okay.
talk about the rockets that SpaceX has, they can go and land. So NASA
Hmm.
was not able to build that. So if someone
Mm-hmm.
has built a better technology, then you can just offer a money to uh, do your missions,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then why won't NASA do it? So it's not
Okay.
about just making up a rocket, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also about, taking into considerations what options you have and weighing
Mm-hmm.
in the economic balance,
Mm-hmm.
where if you can do something in less amount of money,
Mm-hmm.
and so why not do it? So
Okay.
yeah, as I said earlier, in the
Mm-hmm.
case of the startups that we have in India, uh, it can be also said that SpaceX was under the wings of NASA.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it
Okay.
could be completely wrong also, but yeah, it has been the case where they almost were on the end of, dying out. SpaceX was almost on the end of dying out, but their one mission got successful, and then they were able to get the money from NASA for that mission, and here
Wow.
they are, the major
Wow.
player in this space.
Wow. You mentioned की स्पेसएक्सनी म्हणजे रिलँडेबल म्हणजे एकदा लँड झाल्यावरती परत टेक ऑफ करण्याचं टेक्नॉलॉजी त्यांनी हे केली म्हणजे
Yeah.
नॉट बेसिकली हॅव डिस्कवर्ड दिस टेक्नॉलॉजी अँड
Mhm.
ऑफकोर्स इंडिया इज फॉलोइंग सूट देर आर various tests going on for
Yeah.
reusable like rockets and something like that.
Mm.
So म्हणजे ते बेसिकली अकॉर्डिंग टू यू कसं ते हेल्प करेल इन द फ्युचर एक्सपेडिशन्स अँड is it going to help in populating Mars or Moon or something like that? कसं वाटतं?
Yeah, to let's say to go on Mars with a rocket, and if to build a rocket, it takes a lot of heavy uh, technological infrastructure. It uh, has to have a lot of money involved to just even build one rocket. And if you one rocket, you can use it for doing multiple entries,
Mm-hmm.
and having it for multiple missions. It just uh, creates like a huge difference. So to have that kind of technology, and if we are supposed to populate Mars or Moon,
Mm-hmm.
that's what the plan of some big organizations is, then uh, I don't think we have another option rather than having this option, which is right there and which has been quite successful so far. And not just SpaceX, but also uh, organization like Blue Origin, where they are having a rocket where it goes and comes back again, lands on the Earth again.
Mm-hmm.
So it shows that we can build up on these things and have this technology where it gives us the opportunity in less amount of money,
Mm-hmm.
and also gives us the space to carry out our missions
Mm-hmm.
multiple times over the range of times, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what will be the need when we talk about populating Moon or Mars.
Right.
Be-
Right.
because you have to carry out not just people but the supplies for it over
Supplies
the
also
period of
is
time. And not just
right.
supplies, but also they'll have to create atmosphere, and
Atmosphere,
they'll have to create the infrastructure which will support
infrastructure.
them. So that
Yes.
will be also part of supplies. So
Yes. Yes. Surely. Of course, this goes to another point.
yeah.
Uh, in the future, तुला काय वाटतं की space tourism will be a thing?
Yes, I am quite optimistic about it, but I know it's not going to be easy, and I could be wrong,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which I don't want to be, honestly, because I want to, travel to space at some point in my life, which I don't know how much is it possible.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but uh, so the challenges are going to be, again, it all comes to economics. It all comes to the funding that they are going to get. So
Mm-hmm.
initially there will be people who will be traveling. Let's say there have been some successful missions so far by Virgin Galactic about uh, traveling in space, uh, but how many number of people that are ready to spend those billions and take a flight and come back, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and would they like to do it again and again? Because for some years, if let's say it goes successful and we have just few amount of people who can afford those tickets, and once those people are finishing up,
Mm-hmm.
would the cost of those tickets would lower up for general public to take it up
Afford
as
it.
well, just like
Mm-hmm.
airline tickets?
Mm-hmm.
Or it's going to be just those people who can afford it? So until the time we don't mature that technology where the ticket fares would be lower and they tap more market, I don't know, it might be just my viewpoint that the business will die after some point until they lower the fares and tap
Cost,
more
yes.
people and more people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
that's the major challenge, I think.
Okay. So basically, we talked about aerospace
Yeah.
in like the ugam of aerospace, असं म्हणू शकतो, beginning of aerospace
Mm.
in US.
Yeah.
आपण इंडिगो बद्दल बोललो, आपण एअर इंडिया वगैरे बद्दल बोललो.
Mm.
सो तुझ्याप्रमाणे आणि ऑफकोर्स हिस्ट्रीप्रमाणे इंडियामध्ये हे ट्रेंड कधी चालू झाला?
Yeah.
कारण की वर्ल्ड वॉर टूच्या वेळेस तर कॉलनीज होता बेसिकली.
Mm-hmm.
आफ्टर दॅट researching in this and starting private company or something like that, it was very challenging आणि
Yeah.
लोकांकडे पण पैसा नव्हता
Yeah.
फॉर ट्रॅव्हलिंग. सो म्हणजे आपला ब्रेक थ्रू कसं झालं इथे?
I think when you talk about, let's talk about two things where aeronautics and the space.
Mhm.
So let's talk about space first. So space
Okay.
started when all of these scientists came together right after independence, where our prime minister supported them little bit, and they just you might have seen the pictures where the scientists were carrying the parts of rockets on bicycles or the
Yeah.
bullet carts. uh, so that was the time of starting those things for space. And for let's say commercial aviation, I think it's around 60s or post 60s where there were businesses that were happening in India or
Mhm.
started to happen.
Mhm.
And not just people from India but people from outside, where they had to travel to India to do the activities if you talk about politics or
Mhm.
businesses, anything,
Mhm.
sports also, which plays a major role.
Mhm.
um, so for all those activities there had to be need of uh, a company or organization. So uh, I think it started with other like international companies to come to India, and then
Mhm.
Indian companies saw the potential that there are people in India who are traveling abroad, and same the people are from international are coming to India.
Mhm.
So to grab that opportunity, I think around that time the Indian companies got set up and they decided to have airlines and operate planes.
वा वा. आपण ऍक्च्युली एक मूवी पण बघितलाय, इफ यू हॅव सीन दॅट, उडान समथिंग.
Hmm.
उडान पण एक मूवी आहे त्याच्यामध्ये
Yeah,
डेक्कन एअरलाइन्सचं त्यांनी बोललंय. सो
yeah, yeah, yeah,
बेसिकली, यप, सो बेसिकली इट वॉज अ व्हेरी पाथ ब्रेकिंग म्हणता येईल
yeah, yeah.
फॉर नॉर्मल पीपल
Hmm.
टू फ्लाय, कारण की त्या टाइमला एअरफेस खूप जास्ती होते, जसं
Yeah,
आपण
yeah,
बोललो.
yeah. Not normal people could, or the middle class people could
हम्म.
afford it. It
हम्म.
was just the people who are at the uh, very good level of economical stability in their
हम्म.
lives at that point in time, where
हम्म.
we were just fighting for food right after the Britishers left the country.
हम्म.
So it was a challenging time, and to have airline or flights flying over the country, it would have been a very path breaking.
Wow, wow. Of course, we will talk about Tata also.
Mm.
How is Tata's role in aerospace at the time also, and
Yeah,
now? Now is more important.
yeah.
So, how is it? Like, how can you explain?
Yeah, so I think Tata has always played a role in all of the industries, right? And aerospace is no special. Tata hasn't only been, making something significant which, comes under the limelight always. Like they don't always build an aircraft or something like uh, a
Mhm.
rocket,
Mhm.
but they do help in their technologies with major subparts or manufacturing things which would be helpful for, let's say, ISRO, HAL, or DRDO, or
Mhm.
even other airplane manufacturers, like let's say Airbus might be using many things which Tata manufactures in India.
Mhm.
So all these subsystems and equipments and the manufacturing capability that Tata holds has always uh, been pivotal in growing aerospace, not in India but even in world for that matter. So but it's not often talked about because it's not the main product which gets in limelight, but it's because they have the capabilities of having the subsystems and the technology, or even IT technology for that matter.
Mhm.
So all of these things have always been pivotal for them, but I think they are uh, quite in a good position right now, where they have significant joint ventures with Airbus or other aerospace companies in India, where they are setting up final assembly lines. So yeah, we have to be quite we have to feel very proudful about that we have a
Mhm.
company which has always played its role in making our country great.
Wow, wow. That's really great.
Yeah,
Of course, Tata is what we can say a pioneer of developing India.
mm,
You said about DRDO, you said about
yeah,
HL. तुझ्याप्रमाणे DRDOचा आणि हालचा HLचा काय रोल आहे ह्याच्यामध्ये एरोस्पेसमध्ये फॉर फायटर जेट्स फॉर मिसाईल्स कारण की
yeah,
अगेन वी से अब्दुल कलाम इज द मिसाईल मॅन
yeah,
ऑफ इंडिया अँड त्यांच्या टाईममध्ये मिसाईल्स खूप त्या लेवलचे झाले होते की आणि अजूनही त्या लेवलचे आहेत की ते वर्ल्ड सोबत कम्पीट करतात
yeah,
सो व्हॉट्स यू से अबाउट
yeah. So मला वाटतं की DRDO holds a very special position in our country's defense power. कारण DRDOनी जे टेक्नॉलॉजी डेव्हलप केले, even before make in India was a thing,
इट.
DRDO was developing technologies, was becoming self-reliant in its own ways, whether you talk about uh, developing missiles or systems which are going to be used in uh, missiles or any kind of equipment. Uh, when we talk about DRDO, we need to also talk about what makes them special. I think what makes them special is they have been in constant, technology transfer with other countries as well, not just the bigger countries than us, but also the smaller countries than us, where they needed our help. Uh, so we've not only taken the technological advancement from other countries, but we've also given to some where it needed and it mattered the most. Uh, so in terms of the geopolitical landscapes, I think that helps us a lot. Um, and when we talk about DRDO, we also forget to talk about the unmanned aerial vehicles that uh, uh, DRDO builds a lot, and it's also very significant and helpful in our armed forces. Um, and when it comes to HAL, I think the kind of aircrafts that we develop, again, it's a thing of self-reliance, make in India, even before it was there. HAL has been also doing the same, although there have been limitations to it. But when you look at the fighter aircraft Tejas and its capabilities and the technology we were able to develop, and the position that the aircraft holds, I think we have to be very happy about the positions that both of these organizations hold in our history of defense.
वा आपण बिझनेसच्या ह्याच्याकडे जाऊ एरोस्पेसच्या बिझनेसकडे
Mm.
आता त्याच्यामध्ये मग हाऊ डज आता यू हॅव बीन इन द बिझनेस फॉर क्वाईट लॉंग सो त्याचं सप्लाय चेन वगैरे कसं वर्क करतं म्हणजे is it different than normal businesses of anything?
Hmm.
Amazon वगैरे, की
Yeah.
त्याचं डिफरंट असतं काही?
Yeah, so to answer that question, let's also talk about, geopolitics. So, the major issue right now we are having in the aerospace business right now is supply chain and the ramp up of it. So the global aerospace supply chain is actually quite global when we talk about
Okay.
things,
Okay.
because to build an airplane, we need materials, we need uh, different technologies, which we need suppliers who can provide us all of those things. And uh, there are many countries involved in that. Like for a specific material, there could be a country which is under war, and that's what happening.
Mm-hmm.
So when a geopolitical situation comes up and there is an instability, it also affects, the delivery time of when the material is going to reach,
Mm-hmm.
uh, when it is needed. So it's all those small things which adds up to
Mm-hmm.
the supply chain. So uh, I'm not sure about the supply chain of other industries quite specific, but yeah, for aerospace in general, I think that's where the major difference is, because we are relied on a lot of things, not just geopolitics, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, also having less players who give us those specific uh, requirements, or the specific materials, or the technology, or the
Mm-hmm.
subsystems that are required.
Mm-hmm.
And when, let's say, Ukraine is under a war and we need a specific material that only Ukraine can provide us, then uh, it it is very catastrophic for a whole industry, because even without one single thing, plane can't fly.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to manage all of it, I think the aerospace world makes a lot of efforts, and it
Mm-hmm.
goes through a lot of pain as well,
Mm-hmm.
which other industries might not go through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the kind of demand we are having right now, uh, we have to match that demand. We need to ramp up our manufacturing capabilities, but to match up with that, we also match up our supply chain capabilities.
Okay.
And if the equation doesn't add up, then nothing is going to be successful. Now you can't manufacture things fastly if your supply chain is catastrophic, or it doesn't match your requirements of manufacturing. So
Mm-hmm.
all of these are quite dependent on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we are in the position right now where we are seeing a lot of instabilities in terms of wars across the
Mm-hmm.
world.
Mm-hmm.
Or even before that, there was a crisis of like the great American crisis, where the aerospace businesses or even airlines, they went haywire.
Mm-hmm.
आणि कोविडच्या वेळेस पण तुला माहिती असेल, एरोस्पेस इंडस्ट्री वॉज ड्राउनिंग
Hampered.
अप.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
जर विमानच नाही उडणार, तर
Mm-hmm.
कंपनींना पैसे कुठून भेटणार जर ते
Business
ग्राउंडेड आहेत
नाही.
2-3
Mm-hmm.
वर्षापर्यंत. तर even you have to maintain planes even if they are not flying sometimes, like most of
Yep.
the times. So to maintain that funds and the requirement, and for airlines, they always need to have the liquid money. And even
Mm-hmm.
for the aircraft manufacturers, when you don't have liquid money, if your
Mm-hmm.
planes are not flying,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to get orders.
Mm-hmm.
And the planes that are there, their life cycle is still going on. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all those little things which adds up to this aerospace world. And during COVID, a lot of small players or the small suppliers, they literally died. And
Okay.
that was a challenge. So that's why right now we've almost reached the levels of pre-pandemic in terms of aircraft deliveries and the airlines operating, or the economics. So it had uh, but this
Improved.
time we paced up things a lot faster, let's say, because
Mm-hmm.
COVID was in 2019, around that time,
Mm-hmm. 20. Huh.
2020. So in 4 years, if we are able to reach pre-pandemic levels, then I think it's a good achievement.
Hmm. Wow. Wow. Of course, when geopolitics is involved, things get messy
Yeah,
every time.
yeah.
And as compared with let's say in electronics, आता इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स पण ऑफकोर्स एरोप्लेन मध्ये खूप जास्त यूज होतं.
Yeah,
uh, if we compare it with let's say की GPUs आहेत किंवा लॅपटॉप्स एनी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक स्टफ,
yeah,
सेमीकंडक्टर इज निडेड. आणि सेमीकंडक्टरची एक तर शॉर्टेज पण आहे
mm,
इन टुडेज मार्केट, अँड
yeah,
देर इज अ मोनोपोली फॉर इट ऑल्सो.
yeah,
तायवान आहे, तायवान आहे, US आहे,
yeah,
अँड ऑफकोर्स इंडिया इज स्टेपिंग अप द गेम. चायना
mm,
इज ऑल्सो गोइंग टू बी अ
yeah.
कंटेंडर. बाकीच्या असं काही कंपोनंट्सची कुठल्या वर्ल्डमध्ये मोनोपोली आहे का? लेट्स से की वन कंट्री हॅज द मोनोपोली ऑफ इट, वन रॉ मटेरियल,
Mm.
असं काही आहे का इन एरोस्पेस?
I mean, there's so many अशा भरपूर गोष्टी आहेत ज्यांची मोनोपोली आहे. पण आता कंपनीज व्हॉट दे आर ट्राईंग टू डू इज दे आर एरोस्पेस कंपनीज हे आता ऑप्शन शोधतायत की इफ यू जर तुला माहिती की ह्या कंट्रीकडे पण ही कॅपेबिलिटी असू शकते तर युल गो अँड ट्राय टू हॅव युअर ऑप्शन देअर. युल इन्व्हेस्ट इन दॅट कंट्री. यू तू सेटअप करशील तुझे बिझनेसेस तिथे. तू आता जर मी एअरक्राफ्ट मॅन्युफॅक्चरर आहे तर मी तिथे एखादी फायनल असेंब्ली लाईन तयार करेल जसं की एअरबस आणि बोईंग इंडियामध्ये करताय टू मीट दी domestic
ग्रोइंग,
requirement
हां.
of it, or to create a sense of belonging in that country where people feel that you're also part of it, and because they know it's a big market to capture in. Or even the country might ask, like, let's say when they decided that Apple will enter Indian market. I think there was something like you have to
मेक
build
इन
your
इंडिया.
factories here with our support, and then you can be in this business. And also it's a significant option for businesses to go in countries like this, not just India. It could be any other country, to go there and set up a business there, and uh, not just be focused on having a country which has a monopoly over a particular uh, material or any subsystem. And there, it's not just about countries; it's also about the business that is in the country. You can tap that business, and also you can maybe partner with the business who is having which handles that materials, and over the time you can make a great relationship and acquire that business. Also you can make it part of yours. That's also strategies of some businesses. And yeah, like I said, I think there's one thing that I know of is titanium आणि Russia. uh, they both go well. Like टायटेनियम रशियाकडनं मिळतं आणि टायटेनियम एरोस्पेस मध्ये ह्युजली पॉप्युलर, खूप यूज केलं जातं.
ओके.
Yeah, things like these matter a lot. And when Ukraine got under war with Russia, uh, एरोस्पेस सप्लाय चेन ला हा प्रॉब्लेम आला की आता कसं करायचं, आणि
बरोबर आहे.
ते सॉल्व्ह करता येतो इश्यू अजून पण.
Okay, okay, I
Yeah.
see. So basically, there's a gap in the market, and of course, a new company can exploit it. Even मतलब, म्हणजे कुठेतरी मिळालं, let's say की
Yeah, I
in
mean,
Africa
they
something.
don't have option, but they are trying to figure out,
Yep,
कुठून तरी भेटेल आणि we just continue our businesses.
yep.
Or they might get, but there's a heavy uh, because of heavy instability, there's delays that are happening. And when you have a delay with one supplier, let's say आता एअरबसला तू तुझं कुठलं तरी इक्विपमेंट शिप करतोय आणि एअरबसने सांगितलं की मला ह्या तारखेला हे एअरक्राफ्ट डिलिव्हर करायचंय, आणि तुम्हाला ह्या तारखेपर्यंत काही पण कंडिशनमध्ये कॉन्ट्रॅक्च्युअल ॲग्रीमेंट्समध्ये हे मटेरियल मला लागेल. आणि तुमच्या डिलेमुळे जर ते मटेरियल नाही पोहोचू शकत आणि एअरबसला किंवा
हॅम्पर
एखाद्या
झालं.
कंपनीला ते एअरक्राफ्ट त्या एअरलाईनला डिलिव्हर नाही करतायत, तर ते एअरलाईनचं पण नुकसान आहे आणि मॅन्युफॅक्चररचं पण नुकसान आहे, प्लस जी कंपनी किंवा जे सप्लायर ते मटेरियल देणार होतं त्यांच्यावर पेनल्टी लागेल. जसं
ओके.
एअरलाईन, इट्स अ बिझनेस ऑफ पेनल्टीज. लाईक airlines will be putting penalties on the aircraft manufacturer if you can't deliver the aircraft on time as
टाइम.
you said you will. And the aircraft manufacturer will find the reasons why we couldn't, and in the contractual agreements they'll find that the supplier couldn't deliver it on time, so they'll put the penalty on them. So it's revolves around.
ओके, ओके, ओके. Wow, that's okay. And of course, ह्याच्यामध्ये opportunities खूप आहेत
Hmm.
in terms of everything. So
Oh,
key opportunities तुझ्याप्रमाणे इंडियासाठी काय काय and is in Make in India initiative working like helping us something like that.
I think it helping us in many ways. It is kind of uplifting our uh, talent that we have to to find solutions internally rather than looking out internally. It's always difficult when you start.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but apart from that, I think when you become self-reliant, uh, you can initially तुम्हाला प्रॉब्लेम येतील की इकॉनॉमिक्सच्या टर्म्समध्ये बट वेन यू कम्प्लिटली गेट इट राईट इट
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of opposite. It also helps you in a lot of ways when it comes to
Okay.
economics because you know the value of it, so there won't be higher margins when
Mm-hmm.
you have your own material and you are aware of the prices.
Mm-hmm.
uh, so in that way it's hugely helpful. And also I think the opportunity India has right now is also uh, our uh, let's say financial capabilities that quite growing up. Our GDP is going higher
Mm-hmm.
and higher,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
the infrastructure which we are having right now, it's also getting better in terms of road and transportation. So to set up companies like aerospace companies where you have to transfer materials from one place to another, it
Mm-hmm.
it also plays a significant role.
Mm-hmm.
So to have a good role and a good mode of transportation,
Mm-hmm.
it plays a significant role, and we are having quite a good progress in that uh,
Mm-hmm.
position right now. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, so all everything is at a very good level of balance right now, where we can use this opportunity. And as you know, people are ready to buy tickets now. More people are flying or taking up flights to go from one place to another, and then airports are opening up.
Mm-hmm.
So the numbers, if you want to look at it, they are like captivating. So as I also mentioned previously that companies want to invest in India, so
Mm-hmm.
there's opportunity for a huge number of uh, let's say jobs that will be created out of it,
Mm-hmm.
or there will be opportunities for businesses that will be coming out to see the opportunities that will be presented right now. And there are some startups which are coming at building up their own manufacturing facilities for not just the bigger things but also small subsystems or small things, even subscale or small scale businesses which might be options for companies to go on.
Wow. Wow.
So all of these things are, we are in a very good place right now.
Wow, cool. According to you, how is the future of aerospace industry?
There are plans of having a plane by 2035 of hydrogen by
Mm-hmm.
using the hydrogen fuel. But to even reach that level, we'll have to start with something which is more easier right now,
Mm-hmm.
and it has been started already, like uh, Virgin airline, they had a successful flight with sustainable aviation fuel.
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, so sustainable aviation fuel are the easiest way
Mm-hmm.
to to start with, and then after some years we'll have uh, better technologies in terms of the uh, electrical uh, means of charging your airplanes and using that as a fuel. So that will come up, and then after that, as we also do research and technological development, so by the time there will be a plane which uses hydrogen as a fuel, we'll have
Mm-hmm.
to go through these ways to reach that level. uh,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to use let's say eVTOL, like electric vertical takeoff and landing kind of
Mm-hmm.
aircrafts, uh, So
ते काय असतं ते पण एक्सप्लेन करा,
yeah,
कारण
so
की
yeah, elect so eVTOL is kind of aircraft which takes off right from the ground. It's like a
रॉकेट.
system of helicopter
ओके ओके
where,
ओके ओके.
and it goes to another point and drops off the passengers. So it's for the small range of distances. So you can travel in between cities to avoid traffics also. So if you want to reach
ओके.
your airport and there's like heavy traffic, you can have this option of going from one place to another by eVTOL. Like if you live out of the city, so these options are coming up as well in the aerospace world, and they are quite famous right now.
ओके
So
ओके.
you will have this, and they for sure will use the battery technology. So all of that is going to be quite disruptive as well to other means of transportation, um, like metros and buses and all of that. Depends on how the fares will be for that. But yeah, we need to welcome those technological advancements which are happening, and you will see, not after a few years but quite soon, things like that flying.
वाव.
So yeah, so all of the startups are working very actively, and in major cities like Dubai, or there will be starting points of all those in this major kind of cities. Low cost carriers like Indigo in India, or Ryanair in Europe, where they just offer a seat for 20 euros, where you can go from one country to another for 20 euros. It's very cheap.
ओके ओके.
And yeah, and also sometimes you have, and they're also coming up there where their CEO talk that will make an option where you can stand on an airplane and you just pay 10 or 5 euros. So imagine that
Is
happening.
it really true?
I don't know how, but he really said it, and then you can expect things like that from Ryanair. So so imagine things like that happening, and it would be again very disruptive. But it would be catastrophic as well for the other airlines who are paying higher charges. They would go out of business because their operation is not like that.
Yep.
And to change it to manage this kind of low cost option, where more people will favor these options, so there will be a lot of instability among businesses as well in future. But it's about who adopts faster when the change comes up. And you will also see that in future we will be having a lot of aircrafts which will be going out of services.
Mm, can you explain that
Yeah,
more?
like a lot of aircraft life cycle will be ending, and they will
Okay,
be
okay.
uh, not be able to fly anymore, and to have space for them, or like what are we going to do with them, that is also a big question, where companies are coming up with recycling things, but we are just getting started in that terms. So uh, that is also a big question, because there's huge number of aircrafts which will be retiring over the next 10 years, which are already in service, and to meet that demand as well of retiring aircrafts, not just the new market. So that's a very big question as well. So all of these things are uh, quite challengeable, and quite, they also present a lot of good opportunities as well. So fingers crossed for this industry, and this is always an evergreen industry where people get inspired to work in this industry, and where we it's not just about earning money, but it's also about giving back to society, and making sure that you see smile on the people's faces when they travel from one country to another country to meet their relatives or their family. So it's also about that.
Wow, wow. Yes, that's great.
Yeah, I think if someone wants to take up this career, you don't have to just take up an aviation or aerospace degree. There's a lot of ways you can be part of this industry. You can do you can study IT, you can study even biology, mathematics, you can study electronics and you can still be part of this industry. Because I uh, there are some astronauts who haven't studied aerospace, but they have PhDs in biology or things like that, and they're doing research in the International Space Station. So there's a lot of ways you can be part of. You just have to be interested in this industry, and it gives you a great joy that you're able to do something inspiring work.
Wow. Wow. It was really fun talking to you and खूप मजा आली and ॲक्च्युली खूप इन्फॉर्मेटिव्ह पण खूप होतं. ॲज अ पार्टिंग मेसेज ला काही यंग व्ह्युअर्सला ज्यांना ह्या फील्डबद्दल उत्सुकता आहे, या
Hmm.
इंडस्ट्रीबद्दल उत्सुकता आहे, और सम बिझनेस पर्सनॅलिटीज ऑल्सो
Hmm.
might be seeing these opportunities as you
Hmm.
mentioned in these
Yeah.
fields. So त्यांच्यासाठी तुला काय मेसेज आहे, पार्टिंग मेसेज?
Yeah. So it's a tough industry to crack in at the start, but uh, you have to be very patient in these businesses, or even if you want to have a career. So for your young viewers, if they want to have career in this industry, they need to be quite patient and very inspired all the time. Like you get some, ups and downs in this industry, and you have to be always ready for challenges. That whether you're taking up this industry as a career, or you want to work in this industry, uh, always ready to be challenged in this industry. And apart from that, it's always important to be curious about how things are happening, and just have a great network among people. One small message would be to uh, always be curious and always ask questions if you don't know about something, because this is an industry where your small decision could impact billions of lives. So to not do something where you are unsure of, it's better to get clarity and ask questions and reach out to people.
Wow, wow. It's a really pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, it was
And
it was a great pleasure talking to you as well, and thank you for having me again.